Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Justin. Alderman Gordon.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple of quick questions, Tom, and I think you can probably answer this one. It just dawned on me. I know that this particular rezoning request required a supermajority because of the protest rate. That will not apply to the site plan, will it? That has to come back for approval, or is that just a simple majority?
Correct.
It'd be a simple majority?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, just wanted to clarify that for my own purposes. And then we did have a neighbor, a resident, raise a concern about this notion of building one building at a time. And I'm not a construction person. Matt, maybe you can, but is that been a concern before in other projects? And if so, how have we addressed that? The notion then, that there's 6 buildings going in a designated area, and the individual developer is going to build one, like at a time, I guess, until they're full, or something along those lines. Do you have any experience with that?
I do. I'm Matt Flynn, Community Planning and Economic Development Department. I think you could certainly do that if you chose, but I think history with economic ups and downs it's a pretty big encumbrance. Remember, McClellan Heights, you've heard of that subdivision, took 100 years to build out. And, development takes time. And
well, I guess I'm talking more about specific projects, smaller projects. I mean, McClellan's, I don't
maybe
that's
not
apples to oranges, I guess. I don't think that's a good example.
I think you could legally require the developer to build X portion of the development by adding a condition. I would caution you on doing that, though.
Well, I don't want to be the one that adds that condition, but I certainly just, the developer heard the concern of the neighbor, and I think it's a concern I hadn't thought of, is having this development project be spread out over an indefinite period of time for whatever reason. And I certainly understand economics and things can happen tomorrow, and the bottom falls out of this or that, and makes things difficult. But as we go to site planning, assuming this is approved tonight, just if from a staff perspective, keep that in mind, and I know the developer will work with you on that. I think, thank you, Matt. I think the amendment that was proposed was a good one. I think it encourages the developer to work closely with the neighbors on this, knowing that the proverbial clock is ticking. And I do want to suggest to the developer that, and I think I said this 2 weeks ago, I really. Water runoff, I think, has been the biggest concern raised, but almost equal to that, I think, is the issue of density at this point in the process. And, I would just, and Alderman Edmund mentioned a good point, and most of us nodded in agreement that I think this process has brought to our attention that maybe we need an additional zoning classification that deals with that gap, going from 9-something to 18 or 19-something buildings. And, of course, that's not going to apply to this particular project at this point. But I just would encourage you to really think about density, think about the neighbors' concerns. We've had development projects in the past where the developer has adjusted density plans and setback and berming and things to help alleviate some of the concerns of the abutting property owners. And I just would encourage you to do that to the extent that I can, suggest that you do so. I would certainly like you to do that. Again, I'm confident in what city staff has told me about water runoff. I think we'll have that issue addressed in this project. And again, I've been concerned all along, and I think my colleagues have done a good job of separating the two entities, the two voices that we're hearing. One is this, again, the Save the Trees, and again, this has been mentioned by one of our audience speakers and a couple of my colleagues. I mean, this is private property, and if this zoning were to fail tonight, you're not going to go open a wildlife preserve tomorrow. I want you to get that. I really do, and maybe we haven't communicated that very well. From my perspective, but this is privately owned property, and unless that particular owner would want to do that, it's not going to happen. I don't know how else to say it. But the concerns of the neighbors are extremely important, and I appreciate them coming down every week for the last couple of months. I know you have concerns. I think we can work through those concerns. We've done it in the past on projects, and I think we can do it again on this particular project. Again, the site plan will need majority approval of this council, and I know Alderman Barnhill, the ward alderman, will be watching it closely. And I mean, Alderman Justin, we've all expressed different elements of that we're interested in seeing before we sign off on it. So this is not by any means a done deal tonight, and certainly in light of the amendment that we passed. So I will support this request for rezoning, and again, just say what I've said the last few weeks, that I'm really keenly interested in this site plan. And again, I don't want to keep harping on you, Mr. McNamara, but take these concerns of the neighbors to heart, and I know be flexible as you move forward is all I would suggest.